So this is group 3 of St. Theresa of Calcutta, grade 11, yung C. So by the way, my name is Nisha Camille D. Balatbat. So this is our topic for today. Our topics for today is one-to-one function and inverse function. So before we go to what is one-to-one function and inverse function, we have some questions. So these questions in these topics are what is one-to-one function, what is inverse function, who are the mathematicians that contributed to study to one-to-one functions and inverse function. What are the significant application of one-to-one function and inverse function? How do you find the domain and range of inverse function? And how do you graph in inverse function? So this question will be answered in a while. So let's go. Okay. So what is a one-to-one function? So this is the function of f of x is a one-to-one function when one unique element of its domain will return each element of its range. This means that for every value of x, there will be a unique value of y, or f of x. In other words, each x in the domain has exactly one image in the range, and no y in the range is the image of more than one x in the domain. So to elaborate more of what is one-to-one function, I have one example here to know more about it. So this is like a theory, sorry. This is an example too. So my grades in this second quarter, just so yes, of course, our domains and these are our subjects are general math, ELS or Earth and Life Science, CBE, contemporary arts, and English for ACAD. So this is the grades. So in general math, we have 80. In Earth and Life Science, we have 88. CBA, we have 87. Contempt with the 89. English for ACAD, 85. So as you can see, our domain have only one range. As you can see, the general math have only 80, and no range will be the same number. It all have not the same. We have 85, 88, 89, 80, and 87. As the same of in our domain, we have general math, earth and life science, CBE, contempt, and English for ACAD. So that is one-to-one function. Next, we have what is inverse function. Inverse function or an anti-function is defined as a function which can reverse into another function. In simple words, if any function f takes x to y, then the inverse of x will be take y to x. So inverse or the take place of them, switch places. So to elaborate more of inverse function, I have example 2. So example of inverse function is in school year 2021 in Conception Catholic School, senior department have 4 sections: St. Nicholas, St. John Paul, St. Francis, and St. Theresa. So this is the students will be our domain. Sections will be our range. So the students of St. John Paul will have 30. In St. Nicholas, we have 25, and St. Francis have 20, and St. Teresa have 50. Even you take places of that, will be the same. So, next questions are who are the mathematicians that contributed to study of one-to-one function and inverse functions. So we have Nikolai Lobachevsky. Nikolai Lobachevsky are traditionally created with independently given the modern formal definition of a function as a relation in which every element has unique second element. So this is Nikolai Lobachevsky. So our next person is Peter Gustav Lejeune Dirichlet. So a German mathematician who made valuable contributions to number theory analysis, and mechanics in 1837. Initially proposed the modern concept of function y equals to f of x in the which of for very x there is associated with a unique y. So uh, this is Peter. So our next is Gotthard Leibniz was a German polymath, active as a mathematician, philosopher, scientist, and diplomat. The one who introduced the term function in 1673, the latter to describe quantity related to a curve, such as a curved slope at a specific point. Johann Bernoulli started calling the expression made of single variable functions. It was only in the 20th century that Leibniz' law of continuity and transcendental law of homogeneity found a consistent mathematical formulation by means of non-standard analysis. So this is uh, Gotthard Reed. So next we have Leonhard Euler. It was introduced the familiar notation for the value of a function. Functions considered in those times are called today the differentiable function. So this is Leonhard. So next question we have, how do you find the domain and range of inverse function? So, the domain of inverse function is the range of the original. The range and the range of the inverse function is the domain of an original. This is an important thing to remember as it will help in understanding and graphing inverse function. This was very easy to find for some functions that are already a domain and range for all real numbers, such as linear functions, such as linear functions. What are the significance application of one-to-one function and inverse function? So, not all functions have inverse function. The graph of inverse functions are reflected over the line y equals to x. This means that each x value must be matched to one and only one y value. Functions that meet this criteria are called one-to-one functions. A function f is one-to-one has inverse function if only if no horizontal line intersects the graph of f at more than one point. Let's use this characteristic to determine if a function has inverse. Example, use the horizontal line test to determine if f of x equals 2x raised to 3 negative 1 has an inverse function. So try it. So next we have, next question we have, how do you graph inverse function? If you ask to graph the inverse function, you can do as remember one fact. A function and its inverse reflected over the line y equals to x. This line passes through the origin and has slope of 1. When you're asked to draw a function and inverse, you may choose to draw this line. In a dotted line, this way it's like a big mirror and you can literally see the points of a function reflecting over the line to become the inverse function reflecting over the line switches the x and the y and gives you a graphical way to find the inverse without plotting tons of points. The best way to understand this concept is to see it in action. For instance, say that you know these two functions are inverse of each other. So that is all. Thank you.